Have you ever noticed how your birthday arrives and passes almost quietly, like any other day on the calendar, without excitement, without disappointment, just neutral, as if the date itself doesn't carry much emotional weight for you, while others seem to count the days, plan celebrations, or expect something meaningful to happen? And maybe you've wondered why you don't feel the same urge to mark the occasion, why the idea of attention, expectations, or celebration feels unnecessary or even slightly uncomfortable, and instead of wanting something special, you feel more at ease treating the day as normal, familiar, and ordinary, not because you dislike life or people, but because the day simply doesn't feel different inside, which naturally raises the question of why some people experience their birthday as just another day. If this way of experiencing your birthday feels familiar, it's important to understand that it is far more common than people usually admit, and it does not mean there is something missing in you or that you are emotionally detached. Many people quietly relate to this neutrality, even if they rarely talk about it, because birthdays often come with expectations, attention, and social pressure that don't resonate with everyone. Treating your birthday like a normal day is not a sign of coldness, sadness, or lack of gratitude for life, but a reflection of how some minds relate differently to meaning and emotional intensity. You're not failing to feel something you're supposed to feel, and there's no obligation to experience excitement simply because a date appears on the calendar. If you find yourself recognizing this pattern, you're not alone, and this channel exists to explore these experiences without judgment. If you'd like to keep exploring the psychology behind everyday emotional patterns like this, you're welcome to subscribe and stay with us. Liking the video helps support calm, thoughtful content, and you can share your experience in the comments, whether birthdays feel neutral, uncomfortable, or simply ordinary to you. Treating your birthday like a normal day often reveals a specific way the mind relates to meaning, attention, and emotional intensity, because for some people, significance is not automatically attached to dates, rituals, or social milestones. Instead of experiencing meaning through external symbols or celebrations, these individuals tend to experience it internally, through reflection, continuity, and personal rhythm. This doesn't mean they lack appreciation for life or important moments, and it doesn't suggest emotional numbness or detachment, but rather a preference for stability over emotional peaks. In many cases, the mind feels more comfortable when emotions are not amplified by expectations, comparison, or social pressure, and a birthday by its nature can carry all of those things. What this behavior often reflects is a tendency to experience emotions in a quieter, more regulated way, where significance is spread across everyday life rather than concentrated in a single symbolic day. From a psychological perspective, people who treat their birthday like a normal day often share a particular relationship with attention, emotional regulation, and meaning, and this relationship tends to be quieter and more internally oriented. The brain naturally responds to anticipation and social focus, but not all minds interpret these signals as rewarding, and for some individuals, increased attention can feel intrusive rather than affirming. Birthdays often concentrate expectations into a single day, creating a sense that emotions are supposed to peak, that gratitude should be visible, and that enjoyment should be expressed outwardly, and this pressure alone can make the experience feel unnatural. For people who prefer emotional continuity, meaning feels safer when it is spread evenly across daily life rather than amplified in isolated moments. There is also a cognitive aspect involved, because some minds are more comfortable when events follow a familiar rhythm, and sudden symbolic importance can feel disruptive instead of exciting. On a neurological level, emotional regulation plays a key role, as these individuals often experience emotions in a steady, moderated way, rather than through sharp highs and lows, and this stability can make celebrations feel emotionally unnecessary. Social comparison also matters because birthdays invite reflection on age, progress, and life milestones, and for people who are internally focused, this comparison does not add meaning, it adds noise. Over time, the mind may learn to associate birthdays with external expectations rather than genuine emotional need, and choosing to treat the day as normal becomes a way to protect internal balance. This pattern is not avoidance, indifference, or lack of appreciation, but a form of psychological consistency, where meaning is maintained through routine, self-reflection, and personal values rather than social rituals. This way of experiencing birthdays often appears in very ordinary situations, like choosing to go to work as usual on your birthday, spending the day quietly at home, or not mentioning the date unless someone else brings it up. Some people feel more comfortable keeping the day low-key, avoiding calls, messages, or celebrations not because they dislike others, but because they prefer emotional consistency. Others might acknowledge the day internally with a small personal ritual, like a quiet walk, a favorite meal, or a moment of reflection, rather than a public celebration. There are also people who feel slightly uncomfortable when coworkers, friends, or family create expectations around excitement, gifts, or visible gratitude, and they may respond politely while feeling internally disconnected. In social settings, these individuals often downplay the importance of the date, treating conversations about birthdays the same way they treat any other topic, calmly and without emotional emphasis. Over time, this pattern becomes familiar not as avoidance, but as a natural extension of how they relate to attention, meaning, and social rituals in everyday life. When this experience is reframed through understanding rather than expectation, treating a birthday like a normal day begins to look less like emotional absence and more like emotional alignment. Instead of measuring meaning by intensity or celebration, these individuals tend to value steadiness, authenticity, and internal coherence. What might appear as indifference from the outside is often a preference for sincerity over performance, where emotions are allowed to exist without being amplified for social validation. This reframing removes the idea that something is missing and replaces it with the recognition that emotional fulfillment does not follow a single pattern. For many people, meaning feels most real when it is quiet, continuous, and privately felt, and understanding this allows the experience of a neutral birthday to feel valid rather than questioned or misunderstood. When you look at your birthday through this lens, it becomes easier to see that treating it like a normal day was never a lack of feeling, but a reflection of how your mind relates to meaning and emotional balance. Some people mark time through celebration, while others experience continuity through routine, reflection, and quiet awareness, and neither approach is more correct than the other. What matters is that the experience feels honest to you. Quiet psychology exists to explore these subtle differences without judgment, and if this video helped you feel understood rather than explained, you're welcome to subscribe and continue these conversations with us. Liking the video helps support calm, thoughtful content like this, and you're invited to share your experience in the comments. How does your birthday feel to you when it arrives, and what kind of meaning, if any, do you find in that day?